My name's James Walker, and yes, I was the fool who loved Emily Carter for 10 years straight through all her moods, breakdowns, victories, failures, her startup drama, her birthday meltdowns, and her absolute obsession with that so-called white moonlight of hers, Ryan Kim. But I guess life's got a messed up sense of humor, because on the day she married him, at the very moment they exchanged rings, while I stood in the back row like some glorified prop with a smile more fake than their vows, my phone dinged with a mechanical voice so familiar it gave me chills. $1 billion received via Alipay. I swear to God, the entire wedding froze. People turned to look at me like I just hacked the stock market mid-ceremony. Even Emily and Ryan on stage looked over, confused. Ryan gave me this smug little smirk, like I was pulling some attention-seeking stunt again. Emily just frowned, elegant as ever, like she couldn't figure out what childish crap I was up to this time. But I wasn't doing anything. I hadn't touched my phone. And yet, there it was, Alipay notification wide open, staring at me like a holy miracle. My hands were trembling as I tapped into Uibao. I wasn't hallucinating. The zeros were real. So many zeros. I lost count. I shouted something I don't even know what and stood up in pure shock. People around me flinched like I'd fired a gun. G. Parker, one of Emily's rich friends, hissed at me through gritted teeth, "James, what the hell are you doing? This is Emily and Ryan's wedding. Are you seriously trying to ruin this too?" Another guy, Tang Carter or whatever, stood up with the same holier-than-thou attitude. "You actually showed up and now you're causing a scene. You have no shame." I wasn't even mad. I was just overwhelmed. Honestly, who even cared what they thought at this point? Emily glanced down at me from the stage, expression unreadable, but her gaze locked onto mine like she expected me to pull out a Molotov cocktail. Ryan just looked entertained. Meanwhile, I was still holding my phone like it was a newborn baby made of gold bricks. My cheeks were twitching from how hard I was holding in a smile. People thought I'd lost my mind, and maybe I had, but I didn't care. I'd just gotten $1 billion freaking dollars. A reward. For surviving 10 damn years of licking her boots. You see, what nobody in that room knew was that when I was 17 back in senior year I got locked in a freezing school bathroom as a prank by some assholes. I was soaking wet, half conscious, when I heard a voice. Not a normal voice. A mechanical, AI-generated voice. "Bind with the support system," it said, "complete the mission, and you'll get $1 billion. I was dying from hypothermia, okay? I didn't ask questions. I just accepted. The mission? Be the perfect simp for Emily Carter. Support her, love her, lift her up unconditionally until she married her true love Ryan Kim. That's it. That's all the system wanted. I figured, sure, what's the harm? She was kind of perfect. Smart, driven, stunning. Easy to admire, easy to fall for. And so I fell hard. I spent the next 10 years being her emotional doormat, therapist, assistant, human punching bag, drinking buddy, startup cheerleader, everything. I supported her through college, her first startup crash, her basement ramen years, the tequila-soaked client dinners that gave me ulcers, and the constant, endless, "he's just a friend," excuses about Ryan. But half a year ago, things cracked. I got hit by a car and ended up in the hospital. Called her over and over, and she never showed. I laid in that hospital bed alone while her Instagram was filled with cuddly pics with Ryan watching the northern lights in fucking Norway while I was coughing up blood. Apparently, one disagreement between Ryan and me had been enough for her to pack up her loyalty and fly across the planet. She even posted about dumping me and then got engaged 2 weeks later. 10 years down the drain, just like that. But whatever. I looked at my bank balance again, still there, still surreal. The crowd at the wedding was still murmuring. I cleared my throat, held back the laughter, and bowed slightly like an actor ending his final scene. My bad. Just an exciting notification. Didn't mean to interrupt. I'm happy for the lovely couple. Wishing you a lifetime of joy and a healthy baby soon. I turned and walked out without looking back. My steps were half solid, half shaky. People whispered I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But I had 1 billion reasons not to give a damn. That night I couldn't even sleep. I was too hyped. Eventually I passed out with a dumb grin on my face. In the morning, guess who called? Emily. Yeah, newly married Emily. Her name lit up my phone like a cursed spell. My body reacted out of old habit I almost picked up instinctively. Then I stopped. Why the hell was she calling me on her wedding night? I picked up eventually, just to see what kind of drama this was gonna be. For once, I said nothing. Let her talk first. Silence on the other end. Then her voice came through, low and a little cracked. James. She sounded tired. Bitter. Confused. I didn't say anything. She continued, we agreed to move on peacefully. Why did you embarrass Ryan like that at the wedding? I blinked. What? She repeated it like I was hard of hearing. Ryan is under a lot of mental pressure. He was really upset you caused that scene. The wedding was important to him. Why couldn't you just let it go? I almost burst out laughing. Was she serious? This was a woman who watched me bleed in a hospital bed while she was cozying up in the snow with another man. And she was worried about Ryan's feelings? I snapped. You wanted me there. He insisted I show up. You both said it'd be incomplete without me. And now it's embarrassing. Are you hearing yourself? She paused. Ryan just wanted your blessing. He was going to apologize after the ceremony. But then you just left. That hurt him. Emily, I said slowly, if you honestly believe Ryan Kim would ever apologize to me, then I need you to say it again with a straight face. Don't talk about him like that, she snapped. This was my decision. Don't drag him into it. I told you long ago you and I were always temporary. I just never got over him. That line hit like a sucker punch. After 10 years, that was her summary. I bit my tongue. No use arguing. So what now? I asked. You want me to apologize to Ryan? Yes, she said firmly. You ruined our wedding. You owe him that. I took a deep breath. The only thing stopping me from cursing her out was the sweet memory of $1 billion. You know what? Sure. I'll apologize. I held up the phone like I was on speaker. Hey Ryan, sorry I ruined your wedding by existing. Wishing you and Emily a long marriage. May you hold hands for 3 years and each other's throats forever. Goodbye. Never contact me again. I hung up. My heart was racing. My head was spinning. But my bank account was glowing. And I was finally free. Screw closure. I didn't need it. The next morning, I walked into the office like a man on a mission. I bought expensive bubble tea for the whole team. Dropped Huawei watches on a few desks. Walked straight to my boss, handed him my resignation letter, and said, thanks for everything. But I quit. He looked at me like I was high. James, what the hell happened? Did you win the lottery? I winked. Something like that. And just like that, I walked out of that job. Out of that old life. Into something entirely new. I had $1 billion and zero obligations. First stop. Real estate office. The agent looked bored until I said I wanted to buy 10 houses. His whole demeanor changed. I ended up picking up 2 villas in Springbrook Villas, Seattle. Rented them out within weeks. My monthly income skyrocketed. The rest of the money sat comfortably in my digital account, collecting interest faster than I could spend it. For once in my life, I wasn't chasing anyone. I wasn't explaining myself. I wasn't begging for love. I was just me. Rich. Free. And done being pathetic. But of course, when you finally stop chasing the past somehow, the past always finds a way to come knocking again. I thought leaving her wedding with $1 billion in my pocket would be the final scene of my tragic soap opera life, but of course Emily Carter couldn't resist one last encore. The night after her ceremony, while I was still lying in bed laughing about my sudden fortune, my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen like some cursed ghost. My first instinct was to throw the phone across the room, but I hesitated. I was curious. Why was a newlywed calling her ex on her wedding night? I answered. For once, I didn't speak first. Let her squirm in the silence. She stayed quiet too, just breathing faintly, until she finally said in a low, controlled voice, James. Just hearing her say my name again felt weird. 10 years of habit don't die overnight. But I said nothing. Then she continued, we agreed to end things peacefully. Why did you have to embarrass Ryan in public like that? I nearly laughed out loud. Embarrass Ryan? The same guy who stole my girlfriend, rubbed their relationship in my face for years, and insisted I attend their wedding so he could parade his victory. And now she wanted an apology. I kept my voice steady. Emily, you're the one who asked me to be there. You said the ceremony would feel incomplete without me. So don't act surprised that my phone notification got more applause than your vows. She snapped back, he wanted to apologize to you after the ceremony. But you left early, like you always do when things don't go your way. That was rich coming from her. I'd spent a decade cleaning up her emotional messes and sacrificing everything for her. The one time I chose myself, suddenly I was the villain. Let's not pretend Ryan Kim would ever apologize to me, I said. You've always taken his side, no matter how wrong he is. She went silent for a moment, then said, fine. If you want to hate me, hate me. But at least admit what you did was petty. I gritted my teeth. Petty? You ditched me in a hospital bed to go take selfies in Norway with him. Don't talk to me about petty. Her voice cracked. I told you years ago, I never got over him. You knew that. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. Yeah. I knew. I just didn't think you'd be so cruel about it. That was the end of it. I hung up, blocked her number, and decided I needed something drastic to reset my brain. So I started planning. Traveling. Living. Spending. The kind of reckless therapy only a billionaire could afford. Villas. Tech. Teas that cost more than rent. And then came the class reunion invite. At first I wasn't going to go. It felt like a trap. But something about the timing felt perfect. It was my last night in Seaside City before I flew out to start my around-the-world tour. Might as well say goodbye to all the ghosts in one go. I wore the most casual designer outfit I could find and rolled into the rooftop bar with the kind of energy that screamed, I'm richer than everyone here, but I'm still cooler than you. Predictably, the whole place went silent when I walked in. Some jaws dropped. Some whispers kicked up. Some people who used to mock me for being Emily's lapdog were suddenly smiling way too hard, trying to act like we were old friends. I scanned the room. And there they were, Emily and Ryan. The newlyweds. Matching outfits. Matching smiles. Matching fake auras of bliss. She looked radiant, no doubt. He looked like he was trying too hard to keep her close, arm tightly looped around hers like a leash. I gave them both a lazy nod and headed for the drinks table. No confrontation. No drama. Just vibes. But of course, nothing's ever that simple. Someone suggested truth or dare. The usual high school nostalgia nonsense. I didn't care. I was ready to play. When it was my turn, I picked dare without hesitation. People leaned in like hyenas ready for blood. Some expected me to cry about Emily. Others hoped I'd explode and storm out. Instead, the challenge was simple but savage: kiss someone of the opposite sex in the room. Normally, I would have brushed it off. But I hadn't touched anyone romantically in 10 years except Emily. And now the entire room was watching me, expecting me to chicken out. Emily looked tense. Ryan looked like he was ready to throw hands. People whispered. Someone giggled and said, "He won't do it. Not with Emily here." And that's when she tried to step in. "Maybe we should skip this one," Emily said, her voice tight. "Let's not make things uncomfortable." Oh, so now she cared about my comfort. Too bad. I wasn't going to be her pity case anymore. Just then, a waitress came in tall, stunning, long legs, dark lipstick, a cross necklace, and a smirk that said she'd seen everything twice. Her name tag read, Sarah. I made a decision in that moment. I downed my drink, walked up to her, wrapped an arm around her neck, and kissed her right there in front of everyone. Not a shy peck either. A kiss with fire. The room exploded with gasps and catcalls. I heard someone shout, "Damn, James." I didn't even blink. I just smiled and pulled back like it was nothing. But when I glanced at Emily, her expression had shifted. Blank face. Tight jaw. But her eyes were furious. I knew that look. I'd seen it 100 times when things didn't go her way. She was jealous. And it confused the hell out of me. What the hell did she have to be jealous about? She married the love of her life. She won, didn't she? And yet, there she stood, watching me like I'd just betrayed her. I turned away and walked back to the circle. The game moved on. My heart was pounding, but I felt free. After a while, I slipped out quietly. It had started raining, the kind of cold seaside city drizzle that soaked into your bones. I ordered a ride and waited under the overhang. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. It was Emily. Alone. No Ryan. She looked wet, annoyed, and still so painfully beautiful it made me want to punch myself. "James," she said. "Let me drive you home." I laughed. "Mrs. Kim, shouldn't you be at your husband's side?" She flinched at that. "Don't do this." "Do what?" I asked, feigning innocence. "Reject your fake concern." She stared at me. "That kiss earlier, that's not you." "You don't know me anymore," I said. "And maybe you never did." She shook her head like she didn't believe me. "You don't need to act out like this. If you need money, just ask. You don't have to humiliate yourself." That was it. The final straw. I took a step toward her, eyes cold. Humiliate myself? I have more money now than Ryan ever will. I bought 10 houses in 1 week. I don't need your charity. I don't need anything from you. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but her expression crumbled. "I don't know what happened to us," she whispered. "You happened," I replied. "And Ryan. And the 10 years I wasted being your emotional crutch while you ran back to him every chance you got." I walked away. But of course, drama always follows. Ryan came bursting out of the bar seconds later, eyes blazing. "You just can't leave us alone, can you?" he shouted. "You're obsessed." I didn't even look at him. "Watch your tone, golden boy. Stay away from her," he screamed. "She's mine now." "Then maybe act like a man and not a paranoid wreck," I muttered. He lunged, but Emily held him back. My car finally pulled up. I got in without another word. I was done. Let them destroy each other. I had a plane to catch. Freedom to enjoy. And maybe just maybe something unexpected waiting down the road. After the reunion showdown, after that kiss that sent Emily into silent combustion and made Ryan foam like a kicked puppy, I flew out the next morning and didn't look back. For almost a year, I traveled the world the way only someone with absurd wealth and zero obligations could. I went to Mauritius to see crystal-clear waters that made me question why I ever cried over a woman, lounged under cherry blossoms in Hokkaido like some anime protagonist who finally achieved inner peace, floated through Venice at sunset sipping overpriced wine just because I could, dove the Great Barrier Reef, and strolled through the purple waves of lavender in Sonoma Valley, pretending for a while that the past 10 years hadn't happened. I booked solo luxury tours where the travel agency assigned me a personal assistant who did everything short of breathing for me. I avoided social media, ignored old numbers, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I was just existing. That was until a message from my best friend Eric Dawson pulled me back to Earth was getting married. That made me pause. I'd seen enough romance and regret to last a lifetime, but Eric had always had my back, through everything. I figured it was time to show up for someone who actually deserved my presence. On the way back to the hotel in Paris, I stepped into a small souvenir shop just to kill time and stumbled upon something absurd, a ceramic cow, so hideously designed it looped right back around to being kind of endearing. I told the shopkeeper I wanted to buy it. He blinked at me like I was insane, then called someone from the back. And out walked Shin Yuchur as he now introduced himself, Nathan Reed. Yep, the same bartender I had kissed during that ridiculous truth or dare game. I blinked. He grinned. Small world, he said, leaning casually against a cabinet filled with even more ugly cow sculptures. I didn't know what surprised me more, seeing him again in Paris, or learning that he was apparently the creator of all these oddly charming, nightmare fuel farm animals. We chatted a little, and something about his laid-back energy made it weirdly easy to talk to him. It was different from the exhausting tension I always had with Emily. With Nathan, I didn't have to filter myself. I didn't have to perform. He invited me for drinks that night, and the next thing I knew, we woke up in the same bed. Yeah. That happened. I won't pretend I fully understood what was going on in my head, but it felt safe. Strange, but safe. Still, panic kicked in. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I was just messed up from everything before. So I left $100K in an envelope on his kitchen counter, packed my bags, and ghosted like a coward. I didn't even leave a number. I told myself it was a clean break. But when my plane touched down back in Seaside City, my old phone lit up like a haunted house. Dozens of missed calls. Hundreds of messages. Gossip had spread like wildfire since the wedding. Everyone knew I'd left town, but now they wanted to know where I was, if I was okay, if I'd finally lost it. The class reunion kiss was apparently the catalyst for a full-blown social media meltdown. Then came the call from Zach Morgamy, trusty real estate guy turned full-time property manager. "Boss," he said breathlessly, "we've got a situation. The house in Springbrook Villas. Emily hired a nanny to live there 24/7 and won't let me show the place to buyers. I can't even get in." I sighed. Of course she did. That property had been her guilt gift to me, compensation for ruining 10 years of my life. I'd already told Zach to sell it if I didn't want anything that smelled like her. But now, even after everything, she was squatting on my closure like a dragon hoarding emotional trauma. I took a cab straight there. It was evening, the sky bruised with orange and indigo, and when I punched in the old code and stepped inside, I was hit with the heavy scent of wine and melancholy. Emily was slumped over the dining table, hair a mess, surrounded by half-empty bottles and takeout boxes. She looked up slowly when she heard the door. For a split second, her eyes lit up. "James," she whispered, like she'd seen a ghost she wasn't sure she wanted back. I took a step back, clutching my suitcase like a shield. "What the hell are you doing here?" She stood, wobbly but determined. "Where have you been?" "I've been looking for you for a year." "Why?" I asked. "So you could ruin me again." She flinched. "This house. You're selling it?" "Obviously. But this is where we made so many memories." I almost laughed. "Memories? You mean the time you dumped me like trash and sent your assistant to clear out my stuff while you were off cuddling Ryan in Iceland? Those memories." She looked like she wanted to cry, but no tears came. "James, I know I made mistakes. But I didn't realize what I had until you were gone." Before I could reply, the door burst open and in stormed Ryan Kim, face twisted in fury. "Of course it's you," he screamed. "Why are you still hanging around? Haven't you ruined enough?" The guy was full-on unhinged now. Emily tried to calm him down, but he was raving about betrayal, about how I was trying to steal his wife, about how he'd waited for Emily all his life. I pulled out my phone, dialed 911, and calmly told the police I had 2 people trespassing on my property. They came quickly. Emily tried to explain, Ryan cried like a toddler, and in the end the cops just told everyone to calm down and settle things like adults. That night, my brother Eric picked me up from the station. On the ride home, he filled me in. Turns out Emily and Ryan's perfect marriage lasted all of 3 months before imploding. He became unstable, violent, manipulative, suicidal. Constant fights. Public scenes. Even tried to burn her company to the ground by sabotaging deals. Eventually, he ended up in a mental hospital. Emily didn't divorce him. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of pride. Who knows? After you left, Eric said, she came looking for you. A lot. I think she finally realized what she lost. Too late, I said flatly. Way too late. A few days later, Zach called again. Someone had made an offer on the house. Above market price, be $200,000. I agreed, ready to be done with it. But when I showed up to sign the contract, there she was. Emily. Again. "James," she said softly, "please. I need to talk to you." I almost walked away. But something in her face, raw, desperate, made me pause. "Fine. Talk." She swallowed. "Let's start over." I blinked. "What?" "I love you. I've always loved you. I was stupid. Blind. But after everything, it's you. It's always been you." I stared at her, expression unreadable. Then I laughed. "No. You don't get to come back now. Not after everything." She tried to reach for my hand. "James, please, you had your chance. You picked him. You made your bed. Now lie in it." I walked out. And just when I thought the circus was finally over, Ryan Kim came out of nowhere, screaming like a banshee. "I'll kill you, James," he roared, charging at me. Luckily Zach stepped in and held him off. I got in my car and drove off before he could do any real damage. I wasn't scared of him, I just didn't want to waste another second of my life on people who never valued me. I was done being the joke in their drama. I had $1 billion, a new passport, and a world full of options. What I didn't expect was for Nathan Reed to show up next. I thought ghosting Nathan Reed would be the cleanest exit I ever made, just a one-night thing in Paris, a flash of something dangerous and unfamiliar, and then gone before anyone could name it. But of course, the universe had other plans, because the man I kissed during that drunken dare, the same guy I accidentally woke up next to in a French apartment full of ugly ceramic cows, just showed up at my farm in North Carolina like he'd been summoned by karma itself, and when I say I nearly choked on my coffee when I saw him leaning on my fence in a loose linen shirt and sunglasses like some model off a luxury ad, I mean it literally, because I'd just gotten off the phone with Eric who was ranting about how Emily's marriage had officially tanked and Ryan was now locked up in a psychiatric facility for threatening his investors. And I was sipping my victory tea thinking peace had finally returned to my life when Nathan Dam Reed knocked on the gate like a casual breeze, smiled like we were old friends, and said, "Took me long enough to find you, huh?" And all I could do was blink and ask how the hell he found me since I never gave him my contact info, but then he pointed at my goat pen and said, "You were trending in China last month, James Farm millionaire guy with a cow empire and a scandalous ex," and yeah, apparently my little online drama with Emily and Ryan had blown up so badly it made its way overseas, and somehow Nathan had followed the trail right to my door, which would've been flattering if it wasn't so freaking terrifying, because seeing him there grinning like a predator, looking criminally hot and vaguely amused triggered something I didn't want to name, and before I could even fake a polite excuse, Emily herself showed up on the same damn day, standing there in jeans and sneakers like the woman she used to be before all the corporate gloss, her eyes duller, her voice thinner, like life had wrung her out and hung her to dry, and for a second she and Nathan locked eyes, and I swear I felt the air tighten as if two completely opposite forces were about to crash, and then she asked, "Who's this?" like she had a right to know, and Nathan, never missing a beat, said, "Just a friend though I suppose now I'm your replacement," and the way her face twitched made me wonder if that line landed harder than intended, but I didn't bother to clarify anything. I just waved her off and said I wasn't interested in revisiting the past, especially not with Ryan still fresh in the headlines for lighting his own apartment on fire after accusing his plants of spying on him, which I wish was a joke but honestly sounded exactly like the kind of breakdown he was destined for, and when Emily tried to grab my wrist and whisper something about how she sold her company and moved out just to see me again, Nathan casually stepped between us like a human firewall, raised an eyebrow, and said, "I think the gentleman asked for space," and she stared at him, then me. Then back at him, and finally left in a slow, stunned retreat, and I swear her footsteps echoed in my ribs longer than they should have. But that wasn't even the weirdest part because later that night, Nathan pulled out a bottle of high-end whiskey, poured us both a glass, leaned back on my porch swing, and said, "I've decided to stay," and when I asked stay where, he gestured vaguely at the farm and said, "Here," obviously, like I'd invited him to a timeshare, and when I reminded him that this was not some casual Airbnb, he grinned and replied, "I'm not some casual guy," and then added, "Look, 2 years give me 2 years of your time, and if by the end of it, you're not in love with me, I'll wire you $1 billion, and for a moment I just stared at him like he'd lost his damn mind because who the hell makes that kind of offer with a straight face, but then he pulled out his phone and casually showed me his bank app and that ridiculous 11-digit balance, and that's when it hit me. His man wasn't just some ceramic cow sculptor or part-time bartender, this was Nathan Reed, heir to the Reed Global Group, one of the most reclusive tech empires in the world, and I'd accidentally kissed a damn trillionaire and ghosted him afterward like a broke ex with commitment issues, and now he was back, charming his way into my livestock operation and turning my whole mental game into scrambled eggs, because no matter how hard I tried to play it cool, the fact that he was rich, beautiful, emotionally available, and absolutely obsessed with making me his boyfriend made it really damn hard to keep pretending I didn't feel something weird and warm in my chest every time he smirked or leaned too close, and the worst part was that even as I told myself I was only letting him stay because of the $1 billion clause, deep down I knew that wasn't true, because I'd had money for a while now and none of it made me feel the way I felt when he laughed at my terrible farm jokes or when he helped patch the fence like it was some kind of couples bonding activity, and maybe I was spiraling. Maybe I was just tired of being alone, but I couldn't stop myself from wondering what if this wasn't a trick, what if this was the real thing, the kind of love that doesn't come with manipulation, guilt, or constant tests of loyalty, and just when I was beginning to let myself entertain the possibility, Emily called again, from an unknown number this time, and when I picked up, all I heard was her breathing hard, like she'd run to a phone booth in the rain, and then she said, "I miss you," like that sentence could undo every betrayal, every lie, every time she chose Ryan over me, and I just sat there on my porch, watching Nathan feed a goat with one hand while scrolling his stock app with the other, and I realized I didn't even feel angry anymore, just tired. And maybe that was the clearest sign of all that whatever spell Emily Carter once had over me had finally broken, and whatever came next, I'd face it on my terms, with my wealth, my cows, and maybe just maybe man who looked at me like I was worth more than a consolation prize. I never thought I'd go viral for owning cows, but apparently, in today's world, all it takes is a jaded billionaire raising livestock in flannel shirts and posting occasional sarcastic stories about ex-fiancés and mental breakdowns to become everyone's favorite anti-hero, because sometime between bottle feeding a newborn calf and yelling at Zach Morgan to stop planting sunflowers next to the sheep pen, someone dug up my online drama with Emily Carter and Ryan Kim, found my real estate assets, stitched together a tragic but inspiring video montage, and Boomy was trending under Beef Boss and Farm Daddy for a whole week on TikTok, and I couldn't scroll without seeing my own damn face filtered with anime sparkles or motivational captions like, "He healed his heartbreak with hooves," which would have been hilarious if it hadn't brought a wave of attention I was absolutely not ready for, because next thing I knew, media outlets were reaching out, influencers wanted farm tours, and even some startup bros emailed me pitching crypto-integrated cow NFTs, and while I mostly ignored them, I couldn't help but laugh when someone commented, "Imagine being the woman who fumbled this, because oh, if only they knew." And speaking of fumbles, Emily tried calling again after I blocked her new number. She started texting Zach, then Eric, then even tried to email me through the ranch website like I was some customer service agent she could guilt into talking to her, and when none of that worked, she did the most Emily Carter thing possible. She showed up at Springbrook Villas with a cashier's check offering to buy back the house I sold a year ago, the same one she had refused to let go of until I forced her hand, and when Zach called me asking what to do, I told him to tell her the property had already been donated to a local animal rescue in my mother's name, which wasn't true, but the look on her face when she heard it probably made it worth the lie, because apparently she stood there for a full minute, clutching the check like it was the last remnant of control she had over me, before turning around and walking away in defeat. And maybe that should have satisfied me, maybe I should have felt vindicated, but honestly, I just felt numb, because I was so far past the stage of needing closure or revenge, and now I was knee-deep in actual farm logistics, trying to figure out how to expand the southern pasture without scaring the pregnant goats, when Nathan Ryadaka, the walking contradiction who lived rent-free in my brain ever since he crashed into my life with his jawline and his ridiculous net worth, walked into my kitchen one morning and casually said, "You're invited to a wedding next week, in New York, black tie, +1, and when I asked whose wedding, he just smirked and said, "My cousin's," like it was no big deal, but from the gleam in his eye I knew it was another test, another challenge, another way for him to see if I was willing to step into his world now that he had basically planted himself into mine, and against all better judgment, I agreed, mostly because part of me wanted to see how he acted around his elite circle, and maybe a small part of me just wanted to wear a suit that cost more than my old apartment again. And when we arrived at the Reed family estate, yes, estate, not house or mansion, but the kind of place that makes Versailles look modest, I was greeted with nods, stares, and whispered curiosities like, "Is that the cattle guy from the internet?" And, "Is that Nathan's new?" which he did absolutely nothing to clarify, instead wrapping his arm around me like it was the most natural thing in the world and introducing me as, "James, the man I'm investing in emotionally," which made me nearly choke on my champagne but also made me feel something dangerously close to seeing. And for the rest of the night, he stuck close through every speech, toast, slow dance, an awkward encounter with people who clearly expected him to be dating some heiress, not a reformed ex-simp turned farm mogul with social trauma, and I should have been uncomfortable, maybe even embarrassed, but I wasn't, because for once, I wasn't performing for anyone. I was just standing next to someone who actually wanted me there, no strings, no guilt, no backhanded expectations, and just as I started to settle into that unfamiliar comfort, Emily appeared again, like a ghost refusing to be exorcised, this time at my gate, not alone, but with Ryan Kim's brother Jason in tow, a lawyer apparently, and she was holding a folder like it was a damn peace treaty, saying she wanted to resolve the rumors, clean the slate, maybe even collaborate on a memoir or documentary to set the record straight, because apparently the internet had officially crowned me the jilted king and her the manipulative queen who ran back to a toxic ex. And while she tried to sell it as a mutual redemption arc, I saw the desperation behind her smile, the way her fingers trembled on the folder, the slight twitch in her left eye every time I said no, and when she mentioned Ryan, how he was deteriorating in the facility, how his family blamed her, how she felt so alone. I almost felt pity, but then Nathan came around the corner, shirtless and sun-kissed from wrestling alpacas or whatever chaotic task he'd been doing that day, and he wrapped an arm around my shoulder, kissed my cheek without a second thought, and said, "Is this the ex?" And the way Emily's eyes flicked to his hand, to our proximity, to the visible tan line on my collarbone from where Nathan's necklace had rested earlier, I knew she realized she'd lost, not just the version of me she used to control, but the version of me she never even tried to know, the one who could laugh without needing her approval, who could build something from dirt and turn it into legacy, who could fall for someone not because they were perfect but because they stayed when everyone else left. And when she finally walked away, folder still clutched in hand, Jason trailing awkwardly behind, I turned to Nathan and said, "You know this thing between us isn't a game, right?" And he smiled without hesitation, took my hand, and said, "If it was, I already won," and for the first time in years, I let myself believe him. I thought after everything, the breakup, the billion, the cows, the kiss, the viral chaos, and Nathan freaking Reed showing up in my life like a boss-level plot twist, I was finally done with Emily Carter. But of course, people like her don't vanish quietly, because just when I was settling into a life that felt almost too peaceful, when the mornings were filled with farm reports, black coffee, and Nathan trying to name every goat after some obscure Greek philosopher, she showed up one last time. This time not with tears or lawyers or PR stunts but alone, standing just outside my front gate like a relic of a different life, her eyes sunken, her hair tied back like she didn't have the energy to pretend anymore, and when I opened the gate, she didn't ask to come in, just handed me a small photo album, said, "I'll be gone after this," and turned to leave, but curiosity got the better of me. So I opened it right there on the porch while Nathan leaned against the doorframe sipping tea, and what I saw weren't love letters or memories or anything dramatic, just 10 photos, one from each year I'd spent by her side, silent moments I'd forgotten someone had even captured, me fixing a broken desk in her dorm, me holding an umbrella over her while she shouted into a phone outside her office, me half asleep next to a cold coffee at her product launch, and on the last page, one grainy picture of me in a hospital bed, barely conscious, with a timestamp that matched the day she never showed up, and written underneath in her handwriting were 4 words, "I should have chosen you," and for a second, I felt the kind of heartbreak that doesn't burn anymore, it just settles like dust on your ribs, because I knew it wasn't a plea or a pitch, it was just a late truth, something that would have broken me years ago but now barely scratched the surface, so I closed the album, walked it back out to the gate where she was still standing like she didn't know what came next, and handed it back to her. Gently, saying, "You should have, yeah, but you didn't," and she nodded, her lips trembling but her pride still stitched together enough to hold back tears, and then she asked the one question I wasn't expecting, "Does he make you happy?" And I looked over my shoulder at Nathan, who was now barefoot chasing a chicken across the yard with a cowboy hat and zero shame, and I smiled, genuinely, the way I never used to with her, and replied, "Yeah, in ways you never tried to," and she didn't fight that. Didn't snap back, didn't try to rewrite it, she just whispered, "I'm sorry," and walked away, and this time, I didn't stop her, because there was nothing left to say, no part of me still clinging to some romanticized version of what we had, just the quiet, mature understanding that not all stories are meant to be rewritten, some are just meant to be archived, and that night, Nathan made us dinner. Well, technically he burned dinner and we ended up eating cereal on the porch watching the stars, and somewhere between him dropping the milk and accidentally sitting on my laptop, he turned to me and asked, "So what now, Farm Daddy?" And I laughed so hard I almost spit out my spoon, because I knew what now wasn't another drama, wasn't another ex, wasn't some wild scandal or regret, it was this. Whatever this was, 2 idiots building something real out of goats, second chances, and way too much property value. And as weeks turned to months, we kept growing, not just the livestock or the investments, or the random merch sales from our accidental fame, but us, like real partners, real teammates, arguing over where to plant tomatoes and which streaming service was worth paying for, and one night, almost a year later, after a long day of meetings and mucking out stalls, Nathan pulled out a small ring box like it was nothing and said, "Look, no pressure, but if you ever want to make this thing legally annoying to break, I'm game." And I just stared at him for a second before grabbing the box, putting the ring on my own finger, and saying, "Cool, you're stuck with me," and that was it. No big proposal, no Instagram captions, just us and a life we weren't running from anymore. And yeah, Emily sent one last postcard a few weeks after that, just a photo of a beach and the words, "I'm okay," and I smiled when I read it, because I truly hoped she was, but her chapter was closed, not with bitterness, not with fire, just with peace. And as for Ryan Kim, last I heard he was giving TED Talks on emotional growth from inside a wellness retreat that suspiciously looked like a rebranded rehab facility, but that wasn't my story to care about anymore, because my story was here now. Sunrises over the barn, Nathan humming badly while watering the lavender field, me learning how to do taxes like a real adult, and the sweet, sweet silence of no longer needing anyone's permission to be happy.